Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and thanks for that introduction. It was great. Yes, I'm from the ACT, and joining from a nice sunny but cold day here, with the heater going on most of the day. But it's good. I love it. So today the goal is to explain how best you can adapt traditional resources, to create interactive and engaging learning for your students using H5P. And I'll just go to the next slide. And by the way, I'm using H5P's course presentation for my presentation today, and it will be available for everyone as well. So to start, you need to choose the right tool for the job, and in this case, it's H5P because it offers a great range of content types to build interactive learning, and I'm hoping everyone knows what H5P is. But just quickly for those who might not, I'll just skip over to their website, h5p.org, and it's a suite of authoring tools, a framework, if you like, to create and author learning activities. It's free and it's open source. There's currently about 52 different content types available, and I'm only referring to 2 of them today. So there's a heap of different plugins and integrations into many platforms as well. So it's a great platform. I'd encourage you to have a look and check it out. And how do I get rid of this toolbar? Can I come back to my presentation? Good. All right, so back here again. And so the next point here, what to consider. Think about how you can adapt the elements of the resource is the next point here. You need to decide, what to include, what not to include, of course. And then, for me, this has been a very much a trial and error process with developing, but it will depend on your knowledge of the tools. So how much you do know about the different tools and their features and functions. And then, of course, for me, I think being selective, minimal in design and build from there, just experiment and see what does work and what doesn't work is a good approach here. All right, the next point is to build in interactivity and with meaningful engagement. And you can do this with quizzing, of course, and it's built into H5P. So, and we know that reviewing and consolidating the learning is imperative. The next point is to format for online learning experiences, and you can do this with strategies such as segmenting, scaffolding the learning, among others. And I'll talk about how you can incorporate Richard Mayer's 12, I should say, be good if it was 20, multimedia learning principles into your design process. And finally, I've included creativity and passion, and I think this goes without saying, but I think it's worth saying. As teachers, we need to be creative, and we are, and passionate about our work. So for me, I've creating and designing learning involves doing a lot of creative and thinking in new ways and adapting to make things work. Ultimately, it makes for a better experience and hopefully outcomes for our students. I'm a teacher, but I have transitioned into EdTech and design. So I'm hoping, through my presentation, you can get a bit of a feel for how you can improve your learning design. I'll just go to the next slide, which is, just talking about the 2 content types in the examples. It's course presentation. And this one has, you can see here, it's sort of like it's an interactive slideshow that contains slides or information in a linear slideshow here. I've got 8 slides in this one. It has 11 separate content types out of those 52 that are available incorporated into this one. And the next one is interactive book, which is an ebook, and it's for building micro courses or reference type material. And this has a lot more. This has 23 different separate content types included in it. So that these 2 are sort of like the best bang for your your $0, if you like, from H5P. I would say if you're going to start, you could use these 2 to get going. All right, that comes to my examples. So I've included 4 in this presentation, but I think I'll only get to 3. And the examples come from PDFs. One is a video-based resource, and the last one here is a web page. So I'll talk about the first one, and that's it's a PDF, and I'll just click on it and open it so you can see, because I really would like you to see what the resource is and how I've changed and adapted it. It's called Communicate Clearly, a guide to plain English, and it's developed by 2610, a Tasmanian Government Development Resource. And I'll just scroll down so you can see its content. And then it is about, yes, learning how to communicate and present your ideas clearly, concisely. There's lots of good examples in here, and I'll just skip down a bit. Sorry, I'm going too much, but there's an example of how it starts off, what is plain English. And you'll see my resource in a sec. I think I might just skip over now. Come back here and open it up. So I've used this resource as part of a skill set called Address Foundation Skills in Vocational Practice, and it's a course we deliver at CIT. And the goal was to illustrate how you can incorporate Richard Mayer's 12 principles for multimedia learning, which are grounded in the cognitive theory of multimedia learning, into your learning activities. So it was an example of that, and using this resource. I've included some information on Richard Mayer's theory on slide 7 or 6 and 7 here. So that's a bit of a summary with lots of links. And then these are the principles here, and you can click here to find out more information there. Come back here quickly. All right, I'm skipping around, but that's the sort of nature of this one, I think. All right, so now I'd like to just discuss the resource. So I've decided to present this information primarily by narration, supported by graphics and minimal text in line with Richard Mayer's multimedia principles, and made the audio files autoplay. Except for this presentation, I've just turned that off, so you have to click it to play.
Writing and
I won't play it, but you can play it at your own pace. So yeah, so the idea was that the students can just click around, and the slide that has the audio, it would just auto play. It's one less click for the students. So I'll just talk a bit about some of those principles. The first one is the segmenting principle. And this is to present information in bite-sized segments rather than long continuous text or sessions, and using course presentation allows for this, because the nature of the slide, it's very minimal in size, so you can break it down just by using course presentation. It also allows the user to click around and control their own learning, like I'm doing here. I'm just clicking on the slides and moving it around. The coherence principle, here you need to cut out extra or irrelevant information from the resource. Use simple visuals and text to relate directly to the learning topic. So here you'll see that it's quite an abridged version of the resource that I took the information from. It's very minimal. The next one is signaling, and you want to use visual cues to highlight what exactly the learner should be paying attention to. So here I've used numbers, text boxes to organize information, bullet points, etc. Colored text to highlight different information. On this slide, more text to differentiate. Also bold, I've used bold here on slide 6 to just highlight key information. So all things that will just help the learner to navigate the resource. Also, if I go to this slide here, slide 8, I've used H5P's feature of these information buttons here that do I just have to move that away. They can contain text in a button that's just one click away. And this leads to the next point, to include graphics and narration, not graphics, narration, and text. And the reason for this is that the text can be redundant information and can overwhelm the learner. You want to minimize the use of text during narrated presentations, and this refers to the redundancy and the modality principles, where the narration should be supported by graphics, not printed text. So I've tried to do that with those buttons as much as possible. I mean, these questions that are posed in this text button are in the narration, so they're still available for the learner to just refer to them later. Another principle is the spatial contiguity principle, sorry, it's hard to say, where you place relevant visuals and related text close together. So here the title is close to the image, and this just makes it easy for the learner to know where to look for the information. And another point is here, but you want to avoid using on-screen text alone. So you want to accompany the text, with an individual to make some type of connection. So use relevant images to illustrate your key points. Ensure the images enhance and support and clarify information if possible. Another point here is about the temporal contiguity, another one, principle, and I'll just go to another slide so I can just illustrate this point. Is where appropriate, present corresponding words and pictures at the same time instead of consecutively. So here, I was able to do this in an animated presentation using Powtoon. So there was a lot of information to get through and present, and I thought doing it in this way with graphics, animated graphics, would be a good option here. So that, and I'll just play a little bit, or just show you little bits of this, where I've done lots of examples and highlighting.
5. Use the active voice object.
I might not play, but you can just click around and have a look at some of the examples. They might have been taken. There might be screenshots here.
Closed if it is not.
Just turn off the volume. Screenshots of pieces from the text that I've included here, and then underline certain parts to highlight things. Okay, the last point I want to make here is about personalization and voice. Try to use informal conversational voice rather than informal voices or robotic voices if you can. Keep your language simple and casual. Avoid complex words. Ironically, this guide is helping you do this to simplify your language. So you can just keep going through this resource, and you can sort of see how minimal it is. So I guess to finish here, some questions you want to ask is, when designing content like this, is the image, the text, the music, completely necessary to assist with understanding or comprehension? Is there a better visual, or can you cut it out altogether? And so, you want to review your content, reduce, simplify, and clarify. So I'll just move on because I'm just conscious of time, and I'll come back to my example page and start looking at the next. So the next example is a resource, and it's a paper-based resource, PDF, and it comes from a colleague and a Gobo, and it's a series of lessons, listening lessons, conversation topics, listening and speaking, and it's EAL students, and you can see I'm just showing one of these where there are questions, so comprehension questions based on a listening activity, and I'll just scroll down. You can see that the dialogue is below. So this is just one of a series of resources that I've used, and I'll just go to the resource now. I've just got it on my website. So I've used course present. So this is interactive book. This is the other content type, and this is it's a nice one because you've got the navigation down the side, and that can be collapsed or expanded, and you can have nice navigation for different topics. And what I've done here is I've compiled these resources together, and I've structured them around the topics. Here you can see I've used contextual images, embedded audio files, and I'll go to the next page, and you can see the audio file, which is for the listening activity. And then below that, I have used an accordion, which is another feature in H5P, to just hide the dialogue. So the dialogue is just all below. Okay, and the reason for that is that it's primarily a listening activity. I want them to focus on the listening first, and then they can have a look at the text later. So that's a good way to do that. I'll just go to the next page, next topic here about a conversation at a coffee shop. I've got a contextual image again, some introduction text. I've got that listening activity or the file embedded here, and then a number of comprehension questions, and that mimics the text-based resource. You can see that there's and the students can be listening and going through these questions as they listen. Got the dialogue as well hidden there, and then a drag the words activity here for a part of the text, and then another listening which is about linking. So I thought this might work, and this is about linking sounds. So they can actually, this is, what is this one called? This is mark the words, where you can just sort of set up which words might be important here, and it's for linking, so linking sounds. So you would, choose the ones that were correct here. And you would need to teach this beforehand, of course. It's only really practicing this skill here. And then finally here I've got an activity for recording their own voice. So that's a good one too. A nice feature of this interactive book is this summary and submit here. So you can get a good idea of your progress as you go through the activities, and you can see how it marks off your progress as you go. So I think I might stop there for that one. Come back to how are we going for time? Yep.
We're unfortunately out of time then. I don't know if you want to...
Good. I'll just can I just spend a minute to sum up?
Sure.
And just say that please feel free to have a look at those other resources. Sorry you can get through quite to the end. Just, use H5P. It's a fantastic tool. Less is more. Keep it simple. Include, information, text and visuals that support your learning. And also, think about segmenting the learning, breaking it up into bite-sized chunks. Even try doing a recording of a video narration. That will help, and it might inspire some, to learn some new skills as well.